So yeah, like I said in the beginning, we're not gonna be doing any coding today. Like I think it's more important to just kind of figure out our bearings and just get an idea of the very big picture. And then next session we'll probably start to dive a little bit more into coding. So cool. So yeah, it's awesome that we have people from all over. It's definitely not what I was expecting, but that's awesome to see. Cool. So just a really quick intro on myself. So hi, I'm Zach. It's nice to meet everyone here. I was raised in Texas and I moved to Brooklyn like 3 years ago. So I've been here ever since. I've been a software engineer for about 8 years, 7 to 8 years, something like that. For the last 4 years, I transitioned more into like data science, like AI, ML type roles. So I kind of have but I still consider myself a software engineer because I still keep very closely to the world. I still use software engineering almost daily as a skill set. So I guess I consider myself somewhat both of doing software engineer and data scientist. I myself got into tech through boot camps. I wanted to learn coding in college, but I could not basically get into the computer science major at my school. So I did boot camps and then I dropped out as a result. And ever since then, I've just been super interested in kind of helping people break into tech just because I saw what a big difference in my life it made. So my teaching experience, I taught at Hack Reactor for a few years, and then I also taught at Thinkful, which is another boot camp. So that's my like professional bootcamp teaching experience. Additionally, I've done like private tutoring for many years. I tutored like middle school students, high school students in coding, and now I have I have like 2 or 3 friends that I privately tutor. So that's been something I've kind of kept up with over the years. And then my professional like work experience, I've worked at Indeed. That's kind of like my big company experience. And then I was the first hire at VinoVest, which is a wine investing startup. And most recently, I was the first hire at Copy AI, which is an AI copywriting startup. So yeah, that's my professional experience. But I'm still learning myself. I am no means an expert on any of these things. I just like teaching it, I guess. So I guess we'll just start off with the secret. The secret of becoming a great engineer or designer or practitioner of anything is it's actually making things. Might be kind of anticlimactic, but the reason why I put this in the beginning is because I mean, there's just no other the way to go around it, right? You can watch all the videos you want. You can watch you can go through this bootcamp, for example, and watch all the recordings or the live sessions. But the truth of the matter is, it's not going to make a huge shift in your career trajectory or your own skill trajectory unless you're actually making things. And to follow up on that, you kind of have to make things as frequently as possible. And this means that the things that you make will start out pretty simple. You might consider them like bad or ugly or whatever, but that's kind of how everyone starts, right? You just have to basically keep building things as much as possible, like real projects, real things, and that's really the only way to get to be a great engineer. So, with that in mind, I like this quote from Penn and Teller, or I guess it's just Teller from the group Penn and Teller. He has this great quote where he's like, "Magic is just spending more time on something than anyone else might reasonably expect." So I think any great practitioners, once again, like any great designer, engineer, craftsman, etc., they know this, that when you see something that's amazing, like an amazing project or an amazing app or whatever, underneath that, magic, like it might look like magic, but underneath that, it came with so many iterations of not great things, right? Like it starts out bad and it just gets better and better. And the cumulative result of all that is what we look at as a magic. So I really like that quote because, yeah, I think especially for learning, that's really true, right? In the beginning, it's tough. It's like you don't know what you don't know. It's like so much uncertainty, but you just kind of have to trust like the process of making things over and over again, and eventually you'll reach a point where to other people, what you're making, it looks like magic. Cool. So with that out of the way, I'd like to get into some more like details about the program itself, like how everything works, aka how to get the most out of this. So we'll start with Twitch. Thankfully, everyone here, you've already found Twitch. You're already in it. So Twitch is basically where the live sessions will be held. They'll be held on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. EST. They'll last about an hour. This is approximately approximate time, right? Some sessions might take a little longer. Some sessions might take a little shorter. I'm still filling it out myself, so aiming for an hour. And then there's always going to be 15 minutes after that's dedicated for Q&A. So during the session, I want people to have questions and post questions in chat. Like that's one of the benefits of having a live program. But just given that with this group, I know there's like a wide range of skill levels, and I worry that if I start kind of answering questions while going through all the slides, it could be distracting to many people. So I find that maybe just like, I encourage you to post the questions in chat, but just know that I probably won't get to actually answering them until that last 15 minutes. Once again, this is all something that, we're working through ourselves. We're trying to figure out. But in my head, this is something that might work best for everyone, given that we have so many different skill levels here. So another thing about Twitch and, live lectures is live lectures where the person's just like droning on and on and on for an hour. I really don't like those. Like they're not that fun, and I kind of get bored when I'm sitting in on one. So to facilitate more active participation, during these live lectures, we'll very frequently do live polls. And to demonstrate, I think we can just do one right now. So the poll I'd like to give everyone is just asking everyone here, like, what are your goals with this class? And there's two ways you can answer the poll. You can scan the QR code, and on your phone, like there should be a way to kind of view it. And I'm also going to share the link to the Slido. I'm using an app called Slido to do it. Share a link with participants. Let me set it live. Okay, so I just turned it on. I'm going to share the thing in chat. Cool. So I just shared that Slido link. So do let me know if... Oh, wow. So you can already see the live results coming through. That's pretty cool. Cool. So this is just to get an idea of kind of, what everyone's goals are. Because I know that people have, not everyone is here to like necessarily change their career, even though I'm sure most of people are. I myself like wanted to learn coding mainly to build a particular project idea I had. So it's interesting to see kind of what everyone's goals are. So I'm gonna let this run for maybe like 1 minute-ish, like 30 seconds to a minute. And then, Yeah, this is my first time using Slido as a facilitator, and it's cool to see like the live polling. It works quite well. Cool. I'll maybe give a couple, maybe like 20 more seconds for anyone that hasn't gotten in, and do let me know if you're having issues with the link. Yeah, definitely. Wow, almost 50% so far looking to change their career. But we still have a lot of people that are looking to just level up or build a particular idea. A lot of people that are just learning for fun too, which is cool. Cool, and then we have nice. Okay, nice. We'll give let's give it like 30 more seconds. I don't really know how long to let these things run, and of course, you're welcome to answer it after I move on to the next slides, but definitely want to give a chance for everyone to kind of see the results come in live. But it looks like the results are stabilizing now. It looks like the majority of the participants here are looking to change their career. So that's really cool to see. Okay, cool. So as you can see, like everyone is here for different reasons. Not everyone is here necessarily to change their career, right? If for the Hack Reactor and like Galvanize, like those professional boot camps, I'm sure the ratio would be more like 80%, 90% looking to change their careers because they're paying a lot of money for it. So that's kind of like the most lucrative goal. So it's cool to see here that there's a wider range of like different goals here. Cool, nice. And we'll do more live polls as well. This is just kind of one to kind of for me to test this live polling thing, and also just get a feel of kind of what everyone's goals are. Cool. So feel free to continue to answer this poll, even if you haven't got the chance to. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep moving because we do have limited time here. But yeah, thanks everyone for participating. It's good to know that this works fairly well. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Notion page. So the Notion page is, I want to consider this the home base for all the content. So this is where you're going to find kind of like the basic info of like, the frequently asked questions, the code of conduct. Also after each of these sessions, this is where you're going to find the link to the slides themselves. So this presentation I'm showing, this will be linked in the Notion as well. So you can go through and like click on any links that you might have missed, review content that you didn't get the chance to look at. I'll also put the recordings in Notion too. So yeah, it's basically the place where you can just go and review everything after live lectures. So consider Notion to be the home base for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just like tour through it really quick. Some of you might have gotten the chance to look at it. If not, basically it's this link right here. It starts with like onplayground.notion.site, and then this kind of like ugly URL. So I'm going to click on it. And this is what it looks like. Basically, you can see that the top section here just contains all like the high level info. So this is just like a lot of the stuff I've said before of like when the kickoff date is, which is today, when the live sessions are, as well as the code of conduct, which is, I'll get more into the code of conduct in a second. But if you're going to participate in any like live discussion, for example, the Twitch chat, or like if you join Discord, I encourage you to read the code of conduct because building a community and keeping it like very inclusive can be challenging. So it's good if we're all on the same page, and the code of conduct is good for that. Some more things to point out. I've also included some like resources. This is like a live document. This is just something I'm going to continue to update. But I believe that like if you want to get good at something really quickly, an easy way to help with that is to immerse yourself. And basically what I mean by this is I don't know if you can immerse yourself just from listening to me talk or just reading the notes I put up, right? One way is to like join other communities. There's other creators that are really amazing at teaching web development. And yeah, I'll share a lot of the helpful resources that I used when I was learning here in this section as well. Let's see. So besides the basics, other things to point out, here you can see like the main modules of the course that we'll be working through every week. And like I said, if you do say miss a session, or you want to review, or you just want to see like what the homework was or whatever, you can just click on the module and you should be able to see the slides. So this is the slides. These are the slides I'm going through. Each section as they go will have the slides added. So that's where you can find that stuff. Cool. So hopefully everyone's like pretty clear on the Notion stuff. I guess one other thing to mention is that Notion is like a live document. So let's say some parts of the notes maybe you find confusing. Feel free to just like add a comment. I don't know if I can do this here myself. Oh yeah, here you can click the comment button, and you can just like leave comments on various sections that, like if this is confusing, you can just highlight it and be like, this is confusing. And then, you let other people know that like, or myself know that, hey, like this is not very clear. Can you elaborate further? I think it's important for us to kind of collaborate on these notes here. Cool. So that's it for Notion. I'm gonna go back to slides. I'm gonna check chat really quick, make sure there's anything important I didn't miss. Okay.
I want to put the Notion in like your bio.
In my Twitch bio. Oh yeah. That's a good point. I'll share this link. This is kind of a hard link to copy.
I'm just replying to people right now with the link.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, good call. I'll put this in my Twitch bio as well, and I'll put it in Discord somewhere high level you can see. I think I haven't really surfaced this as well as I should. So that's a good call out. Cool. And then next up we have Discord. So Discord is kind of the home of the community for this program. So it's really just a way for you to join others that are on the same path as you, right? We're all here to learn things. Right now, this community is very centered on web development, but in a couple months, I will be adding a lot more people who are doing the same thing for design or product management or data science. So it'll be, I'm hoping to grow it to be a community of just people who are learning to try to break into tech. If you haven't already, if you do join, please drop an intro in the introductions channel just to introduce yourself to others. And it's just a good way to kind of get familiarized with the community. Also optional, but it's recommended if you do have a pet or multiple pets. Please drop a picture of them in the pets channel. Everyone likes to see cat and dog pics. If you have other pets, that's awesome too. But yes, please share your pet pictures. So, sorry, I'm just eating a cough drop. So the Discord is where I think the code of conduct really comes into play, right? In Twitch chat, there definitely can be harassment, but it's a little bit more controlled. Discord is where I think it's really important to understand the social rules of the community and understand that we really don't tolerate harassment or oppression of any kind, and just generally be kind as a high level rule. And if you do see any examples of violations, maybe someone's DMing you privately and harassing you, please let me know immediately, as we take this stuff very seriously and we want to act want to act swiftly. In terms of warnings, I have thought about this a lot, and I think for certain violations, I reserve the right to basically remove you immediately if you are found to violate any of these rules in a very kind of severe way. If it's something less severe or something that's maybe based off of ignorance rather than malice, then you might receive a warning. But just know that if you do violate this code of conduct in any way, that it can end with a permaban without any warning. So just a heads up. I don't think this should be a big problem, but just wanted to kind of put that out there. Cool. So that's the Discord, and you can find the link to the Discord here in the slides. Also share this in the chat as well if someone hasn't shared that already. Let me go ahead and check that. Oh, thanks, Jackie. Oh yeah, Jackie's my girlfriend, who is also helping out a lot with the facilitation of the course. So thank you, Jackie. But cool. So hopefully everyone's cleared the Discord. I do see some people are joining and dropping their intros, so that's awesome. And cool. So kind of following the to talk about code of conduct and community and inclusivity, I'd like us to do another poll. So this poll is going to be, how do you identify? And the reason why I asked this is because in every bootcamp that I've attended and taught at, it's basically been 90 to 95% male, which is pretty weird. And I'm curious to see what the split looks like for this class. So I'm going to go ahead and change the poll. Give me one quick second. Okay, cool. So the next poll should be live. I think if you stay on that same link, it should still work. If not, I'm going to go ahead and put the QR code back up. And yeah, feel free to, let's see, how much time should we have for this one? I'm going to set a timer for maybe 2 minutes this time. Maybe let's do 2 minutes. Cool, I'm going to go ahead and look at the live results while they come in. Oh, oops. All right. Okay, cool. 50 response so far. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see my timer. It looks like we have 1 minute left. I'll give everyone a little bit more time. Whoa. Wow, this is awesome. I was not expecting a ratio like this. I know the poll hasn't fully finished yet. We're still waiting for some responses to come in. But this is not what I was expecting. This is actually really, really awesome to see and makes me super happy. Because like I said, yeah, like every bootcamp I've attended or taught at, it's not like this at all. It was always very overwhelmingly male. So this is really awesome to see. Cool. So let's see how much more time do we have? 20 seconds left. Oops. Okay, let's check chat really quick. All right, time is basically up. But yeah, wow, this is awesome. I have nothing else to say here besides this is definitely this is great, and it's great to see kind of other groups as well that don't necessarily identify as male or female. I like to see that we're trying to create a more kind of inclusive space for everyone. So this is great. Cool. So let's move on to the next slides. So this part is not quite 100% ready yet, but I'm building this application as we speak. A lot of the exercises and projects that you guys will be working through will be on a web app, and it's designed to be kind of worked through as you go through the modules of the course. But like I said, it's not 100% ready yet. I'm aiming to have it ready kind of by next Tuesday's session. This Thursday we'll have to move forward without it, but it's still very tentative. You know, software, it's hard to guarantee when things will get done like that, especially if it's just me. And there will also be bugs, right? It's not gonna be like perfectly working 100% when you guys get access. So do let me know when you see bugs, and I'll try to fix it ASAP. You can submit bug reports on Discord. You can submit. I think there's a feedback channel that you can use to submit feedback there. But yeah, I will give access to everyone when it's ready. This will be the URL. There's nothing on there right now. This is just like a waiting list, which you don't need to sign up for because you guys will all get access to it when it's ready. And another fun fact is that I'm using all the technologies that you'll be learning in this course for this app. So I guess that's another good thing there. But yeah, this is where you're going to see a lot of like projects, interactive exercises, so forth. But I'm not going to talk about too much because it's still being built as we speak. Cool. So next thing I'd like to talk about is feedback. So I think a big thing that we learn when we go through school, or at least that I got the sense of when we went through school, is that learning is like a one-way street, right? It's just like the teachers just telling you what to do, and there's not really much room for you to kind of give feedback on how the teacher's style is working for you. And I think that's pretty false, right? Learning is actually a two-way street. I'm learning just as much as y'all are learning, right? And I think for us to actually facilitate that, we need to create an easy way for me to get feedback. So feedback's incredibly important to me, and I think there's two ways I plan to collect feedback. Of course, you're welcome to give me feedback in any form, but there's two main ways to make it easy. One is at the end of every session, I'll be sharing a link for anonymous feedback in Discord and Twitch, as well as Notion. It'll just be one of those like links that you'll see shared many different places, just so it's hard to miss. Of course, like everything else in this course, it's optional to fill out this feedback form, but it's encouraged. Not only is this a good way for you to let me know how I can improve for the next session, it's also a good way for you to maybe reflect on kind of what you've gotten out of each session, right? And so that's one way to give feedback, and it's anonymous, right? So there's no email, there's no name associated with it. So the idea is like you should feel safe giving that feedback because I can't possibly tie it back to any individual. The other way you can share feedback, which is not going to be as anonymous, is in the Discord channel. There's a feedback Discord channel. This is just if you don't mind sharing feedback like non-anonymously, you can just let me know about things there, And this can be anything from like, hey, the teaching style, like it's not quite working for me, or hey, you've used like language that makes me feel like excluded, or even like, hey, the learning app is like broken, or like this part doesn't work. The idea for the feedback channel is just that's a place where you can kind of put all that information there. Cool. So the dreaded H word is homework. I really try to think of other words to use here besides homework, but let's just go with homework because it's familiar to everyone. But I don't want us to think about this homework as the same way as we thought about school homework. This homework is really designed to be is to help cement what you learn during the sessions, and this homework can be anywhere from like, do a couple of exercises or read this article, watch this video. But most of the time, not this week, in the coming weeks, we'll get more of this. Most of the time, the homework will involve building real projects. And like I said in the beginning, of the secret to becoming a great engineer is to build things, right? So a lot of the homework will encapsulate that of building things over and over and over again. And it's really up to you whether you do it or not, right? There's nothing I will do if you don't do it, right? It's completely optional. That being said, you will learn and retain much more if you do it. So highly encourage you. And yeah, so most of the time this will mean exercises in the app, the custom learning app, or building projects outside on your own time. Okay, cool. So that's all kind of like the logistic stuff out of the way. Now let's talk about something a little bit more abstract, I guess. I want to talk a little bit about mindset, because mindset I think is extremely important, especially when you're learning something new. And basically what I want you to get out of this is we really want to enter learning with a beginner's mindset, right? Even if you know a lot about web development already or coding, that's awesome, first of all. But it can be dangerous to other learners if you come in with the approach of like being dismissive or like having very strong opinions about things already. We want to come like ready to learn. Everyone like it's a good way to kind of open your mind up to absorbing new topics. You want to basically embrace curiosity and not be dismissive. And another thing is that we really want to focus on the importance of fundamentals, right? In when you're training to be a musician, when you're training to be an artist, this is something that rings especially true, right? The fundamentals matter a lot, especially for web development. And web development is a field that changes every month almost. Like what I teach you now might not, like the frameworks and technologies I teach you now, honestly might not be relevant in a couple of years, right? Just given how fast the industry moves. But the idea is if we build very good fundamentals, then that doesn't matter, right? Because your fundamentals will be strong enough that you can adapt and learn new technologies and whatever direction web dev takes. The idea is with strong fundamentals, you'll be able to adapt. I think another thing is having your mindset be prepped for concentration and hard work, right? I can't say that learning this stuff is easy, right? That's like kind of dismissive, right? That's kind of reductive. You do have to put yourself in the mindset of like you have to concentrate, and you are going to have to put in a lot of work if you want to be great. And always just remember the secret, right, to becoming a great engineer. You can watch all the videos, lectures, you can read all the books you'd like, but there's only one thing that will make you a great engineer, and that's by making things, right, and making a lot of things. Another thing to point out is you have to be prepared for self-doubt. This is something that I myself and every great builder, designer, practitioner deals with. Imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome is the feeling of like, oh, I'm not good enough. And believe me, there are people out there with like 15, 20, 30 years of experience that seem like the top of the field that still deal with imposter syndrome. So my point here is that basically everyone deals with it, right? Even really, really successful, what we view as successful people. And I think keeping that in mind is helpful, because we're gonna, like, as you work through the topics, as you kind of run into difficult problems, you're gonna start doubting yourself. Like it's inevitable, right? Everyone does. And I think one good way to deal with it is just recognize that everyone deals with this, right? It's not just you. And the best way to kind of address that is just acknowledge that people have imposter syndrome, and yeah, finding other people like a community in our Discord or Twitch, whatever, is a good way to help kind of get the group to overcome that imposter syndrome. And finally, yeah, just always keep a beginner's mindset, right? I myself have this problem sometimes where like I will be like, oh yeah, I've done web development for 8 years, like I'm an expert. But honestly, like I still am trying to force myself to always think that I don't know everything, right? In fact, I know actually very little about web development, just given how big the space is, and yeah, I'm always trying to be curious about like, oh, what are new things that I can learn to make myself a better teacher, a better builder, better designer, better data scientist, right? And the only way you can do that is by keeping yourself giving yourself a beginner's mindset, right? Even if you're 10, 12, 20 years in your career, having that beginner's mindset and staying curious will take you very far. Okay, cool. So with all that, let's do our final poll for today. And this poll is going to be, how much experience do you have with coding, right? As mentioned earlier, there's a wide range of skill levels here. This program is really designed for the complete beginner, but I think it'd be interesting to see and let everyone see kind of, how many people here are expert, or not experts, but how many people here are beginners, or how many people have some experience. So once again, it's going to be the Slido link, and let me go ahead and turn that on. Okay, cool. I just turned it on. And yes, so feel free to scan this code here, or you could just go back to that same Slido link as earlier. Should be the same. Ooh, just spilled water on myself. No, I'm good. It's pretty even so far. Let's give. Oops, I forgot this is my timer. Let's give another. Let's give it like another minute, 15 seconds. But so far, it's fairly close. Fairly close. Okay. Okay, so it seems like slightly more people have done like a little bit of coding before, but it's still, a good chunk of people that have never written a line of code before. That's still awesome to see. Once again, like this program is really designed for the people that have never written a line of code before. But it's good to see that, yeah, there's a wide range of experience here. Let me do this. Oops, sorry, let me see how much time we have. We have 30 seconds left on this timer. What's this? Oopsies. Cool, nice. I see some pet pictures coming in too in the Discord. I see some introductions. That's awesome. Oops, sorry. Cool. All right, that's. I'm gonna go ahead and end the timer. All right, so let's see. 42% tried a little bit. 32% have completed some courses and projects before, and 26% have never written a line of code before. Okay, that's a pretty good split. That's like a pretty wide range of experience. So I know one challenge for me as an educator is making sure that everyone kind of is on the same page, but also knowing that for the people that have never written a line of code before, all the material is really designed to be geared towards y'all. So cool. That's really helpful to know as well. All right, I'm gonna go back to the slides. Okay, so finally we're gonna get into. Let's see, how much time do we have? We have like 23 minutes. I think that should be enough time. So we've gotten kind of the secret out of the way. We've gotten the mindset stuff out of the way. We've gotten the logistics of the program. Now let's get into the actual meat of today, which is I want us to basically zoom out and get into the mindset of kind of thinking big picture, right? Like a lot of courses, they start with coding, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I find that it always helps to know kind of like the big picture view of like, what does tech look like? And then kind of use that to narrow down into to actually coding and web development. So I have this link here that I'm going to share in the chat, unless Jackie has done so already. This is so if you haven't used Figma before, it's kind of fun to be in because you can see everyone's cursors. I'm gonna go ahead and share this really quick. Figma link. Oh, no worries. So you're of course you're free to look at the diagram on my computer or like on my screen. I don't know if you need an account. Yeah, I think you can see anonymous. But yeah, you can see, if you want, you can see like everyone's hands here.
You can really zoom in.
Oh yeah, I will zoom in. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see right now. But if you do want to move around and view things, you can. But wow, you can see all the cursors here. That's pretty fun. All right, cool. I'm gonna give everyone a quick second to get in here if they do want. Or if you don't want to join the Figma, that's totally fine. You can just continue viewing the stream and I'll just be walking through it. Okay, so this is a diagram that I mocked up that's supposed to represent a 10,000 foot view of, let's call this the anatomy of a tech company, right? Because when we talk about coding, when you talk about tech, when we talk about computer science, software engineering, right, there's a lot of jargon, right? For someone who's, someone's going ham here. There's a lot of jargon, right? And so I think it's good for us to kind of zoom out and just see like overall the tech industry, what does that look like? And then start to dive deep. So I'm gonna start here at the very top. The very top, I just labeled this the average tech company. Once again, this is not how every tech company is structured. This is just like the average, right? If you took like 50 tech companies, this is kind of what they look like if you slice it up into pieces. So, the examples of tech companies I'm using here are like Spotify, Airbnb, Google, ByteDance. ByteDance makes TikTok for those who don't know. But any tech company Google here, right? Meta, I don't know. Apple, yeah, Apple's here. Apple's a little interesting because Apple is like a special case. Apple is like it's like both a hardware company and a software company. So their structure is a little different, but yeah, we'll put Apple here. Why not? I do like Apple a lot. All right, cool. Whoa, what's everyone doing? All right, cool. So we're gonna start here. We're gonna start with the average tech company, and then if we go one level down, the average tech company is made up of these main components. So these components are usually product, marketing, sales, IT, data, and there's many, many more that I did not put on here just out of laziness. But as you can see, I definitely wanted to highlight like IT here, especially because IT is something that is often confused with like tech and coding, right? I think a lot of people like boomers, I guess for lack of a better word, their IT was like tech, right? That's what they thought of when they thought of like tech or coding. But the modern tech company has usually separated out IT into like a separate section. And where we're really going to be zooming in on here is product, because product is, it's hard to describe product, but the product team is the team that puts together the product itself, right? So if we're going to follow the example of Spotify, let's use Spotify as example. So the Spotify product team, they're responsible for designing and building the Spotify web app, the Spotify mobile app, all the things that Spotify does, like their core product that you actually interact with and play music on, that all falls within the realm of product. So following that example, the marketing team at Spotify, they're responsible for doing things like, if Spotify is about to launch a big new feature, the marketing team is responsible of, figuring out what the marketing campaign looks like for that. Like what, should they run ads? Should they should they partner with YouTube influencers? Stuff like that, right? Sales, does Spotify have sales? I don't even know if Spotify has a B2B component, but let's say Spotify, sold to companies, I guess, or like had an enterprise plan or something, then they would have a sales division. Spotify probably wasn't a great example because I don't know if Spotify has a sales division, but let's just pretend they do. And then we have the IT department. So the IT department at Spotify, maybe one of the responsibilities of the IT department at Spotify would be like when you work at Spotify, right? You get a company computer, right? So IT would be responsible of making sure that the software on the computer is up to date, that there's no security issues, right? That these are all things that commonly fall within the IT department. And then maybe like we have the Spotify data team. Maybe one of the roles, the responsibilities of the data team at Spotify is to maybe analyze like which artists are doing well, which podcasts should they like recommend as part of their like recommendation algorithm on their platform. I don't know. I'm generalizing here, but the idea is I'm just trying to give an example of what these actual divisions look like at, say, a real tech company. But once again, we're really going to be focusing on product here. And what I want to highlight is something called the product trio. I'm going to put trio in quotes here because the trio can be a quartet or a quintet, right? It can be, different companies will have different groups. Someone mentioned Apple earlier. I believe at Apple, like they don't have product managers. Like at Apple, this product management bubble would be replaced by marketing. I think Apple's product trio typically looks like product design, marketing, and software engineering as their trio. But we're not talking about Apple, right? Apple's kind of a special case. I'm just saying most product teams at tech companies look something like this. So the trio is comprised of 3 parts. We have product design. So this is like you hear terms like UI UX, like this is kind of what goes under here. So UI UX. We have product management, so PMs for short, right? So PMs, this is what they would fall under. And then we have software engineering as the third section. The focus of this course is definitely not on product design, product management. That being said, I think what can set you apart from a lot of the other software engineer, CS majors or like bootcamp grads is understanding a lot of what product designers and product managers do. But that's kind of a discussion for another time. We're not going to be focusing on that too much. But just know that this trio is made of these 3 parts mainly. And where we're really going to be diving in this trio is on software engineering, right? So there's lots of questions that are, probably floating in people's heads, like what's the difference between software engineering and web development, or like what about game development, or I don't know, or like what about computer science, like stuff like that. It's all jargon questions, right? So I like this tree diagram because it helps kind of break things down at a high level, and then we can kind of understand like the jargon underneath. So let's go one level further and dive into software engineering here. So once again, this is a very simplistic view of software engineering, but in my eyes, software engineering can mean many things. When someone says they're a software engineer, this is pretty general, right? Usually there's like a specific part of software engineering that they're focused on. And typically, once again, not every company looks like this. Typically, software engineers, there's like 3 main categories that their work falls under. And this is front-end web development. I guess I should put web development, front-end web development, back-end development, and then mobile development, right? So let's start with mobile development. Mobile development is like iOS engineers, Android engineers, right? People who work on building the actual apps on your phone, right? That's kind of like the role of someone who would be a mobile developer. So is a mobile developer a software engineer? Absolutely, right? It falls within the software engineering hub, but it's like a separate thing, if that makes sense. Like it's a mobile engineer, mobile developer is like a specific type of software engineer, right? And then, as you can see, this little section that I drew up, this is really the focus of our course, right? We're not focused on mobile development. That's kind of why it's out here on its own. Sorry, mobile development. We're focused on the specific subset of software engineering that focuses on what we call full stack web development. Full stack web development basically is the combination of working as a front-end web developer and a back-end web developer. So let's go back to the Spotify example, right? So the Spotify, like a mobile developer at Spotify, one of their tasks might be to work on the Spotify mobile app, right? For maybe Android, iPhone, whatever, right? That's like within their realm of responsibility. The front end web developer at Spotify, I don't know if you guys use the like the Spotify desktop app or the Spotify like web client. That's the surface that the front end web developers would touch, right? They would be writing the code that affects the web app, not the mobile app, right? It's different. It may look like the same to us, like it's just the mobile version of the web, but it's like a different platform, right? So the front end web developers at Spotify, they'd be working on basically Spotify.com, right? The Spotify web app, is something that would maybe fall under their realm of responsibility. Okay, so that's front end, that's mobile. What about back end? This is a little harder to explain just because it's not something we can see, right? The back end is kind of like invisible, right? The front end you can see on the website, right? If I go to Spotify, I pull up my Spotify right here, so you can see it, right? This is the Spotify front end. The mobile app for Spotify I can pull up, and you can see that as well. But we can't really see the back end. And maybe the best way to describe what the backend developers do is, like if I were to click on Spotify and play a song, without the backend developers, it just wouldn't work, right? It's just like I clicked the play button and nothing would happen if there were no backend developers, right? So the backend developers, they basically build the service that lies underneath the front end or the mobile app, right? So when someone goes to the mobile app on Spotify, clicks play, that request is basically sent to the backend, like the server of Spotify, and then the server sends back the actual like song file or whatever. So once again, it's hard to describe because it's not something you can see, right? But basically what backend developers do is they work on the actual like logic and the service underneath the web or the mobile apps. Hopefully like that's not too confusing. But I think once again, we don't have to dive into we're going to be diving into these much deeper. I just want us to basically get an idea of like the high level of everything. So don't worry if you feel like if you feel like that's confusing, don't worry about it too much. Just know, I think just generally keep the structure of this diagram in your head. That's like the main takeaway I want us to get here. Okay, so once again, front end web development, back end development, these are the two skills that you'll be actually learning in this course, right? You will have the ability to build your own mobile apps because the primary language you'll be learning is JavaScript. And JavaScript is great because you can build almost anything with JavaScript, including mobile apps. But I want to keep it as a very separate thing because you can't really call yourself a mobile developer if you just write JavaScript. Honestly, you have to write like mobile specific languages, but you can build mobile apps in JavaScript. So that's just something to note. But yeah, basically the focus of the course and what you'll be learning is in this red section right here, this full stack web development. And full stack is the combination of front end and back end working together. Okay, cool. So we're kind of done with this layer. Let's focus on front end first. So front end, I really think of it as three major parts, right? There's actually only 3 languages to have to be a modern front end web developer, and these 3 languages are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML, this is like the markdown language of the web, right? On any website, if I go to say like, let me just pull up Wikipedia or something. I don't know who this person is. Oh, it's a game developer. I don't know why I was looking at this person's Wikipedia page, but this is just a random Wikipedia page, right? You can actually look at the HTML. Like HTML is the language that makes up every website on the internet. And you can peek into the HTML of this website. One way to do it is like right click on your browser. I think every browser should support this except for Safari. So if you're on Safari, maybe you should use Chrome for this. But if you, like I'm on Chrome or a Chromium based browser, you can right click on it, click inspect. And then you see this thing pops out. This is the HTML code of Wikipedia, right? It looks kind of like this. This lesson is not dedicated to HTML, but this is just to show like HTML is the backbone of every website that's on the internet. And you can even do things like change if I wanted to change this guy. Let's say, like I'm jealous of this guy. I want my own Wikipedia page. Boom, I just changed it to my name. This is my page now. Maybe I can even change this image and make it my image, right? Obviously, this is not permanent. I did not just hack Wikipedia, right? The FBI is not going to show up at my door. I did not just commit like a federal crime because when I refresh it, it goes back to what it was. But this is just I'm going off on a tangent here, but this is just an example of HTML is every website on the web is basically backed by HTML. So it's definitely a core language there. Okay, following up on HTML, the next language that you need to know as a front-end web developer is CSS. And you can see the CSS for the website in the same place. It's going to be on this right here. It looks pretty complex, and don't worry about it too much. But this is what styles the web page, right? If we deleted all the CSS from Wikipedia, it wouldn't look very good. I think there's an easy way to do that. I just don't remember how. But CSS is like the styling of the websites, right? If you just write code in HTML, it's not going to look very good. It's going to look very like kind of bland. So CSS is what makes things like, for example, making this image or this little section on the right, putting that there. It does everything like making this font like look like this, like this big font, larger than this sub font. I don't know. There's millions of examples of CSS that's going on here. But basically, what you need to know is that HTML is like the skeleton of websites. CSS is what styles it and makes it like look pretty or whatever. Okay, so that's HTML and CSS. And really the core of what we'll be learning is not HTML and CSS, though you will be learning those. The core of what you'll actually be learning is JavaScript. So JavaScript is the language that powers the logic of the web. So going back to the Wikipedia example, I just showed you HTML and CSS, right? But let's say I wanted to log in, right? Let's say I wanted to log into my Wikipedia account, which I don't even know if I have one. Like if I type in, if I were to log in and there was no JavaScript, this wouldn't work, right? This just wouldn't work without JavaScript, because JavaScript is basically the logic of the websites, right? So HTML is the skeleton, CSS is like what styles it, JavaScript is what powers the actual logic of the website. So you can't make anything like the Spotify web app, you can't make Facebook.com, you can't make any of those things without JavaScript. And JavaScript is like what is, I would say, the hardest part of what you'll be, JavaScript is like the hardest part of what you'll be learning, because honestly, HTML is not super difficult to learn. It's like fairly, straightforward. CSS is hard, right? But it's somewhat straightforward as well. JavaScript can be kind of tricky, right? So honestly, a lot of what we'll be learning over these next several weeks will be focused on JavaScript. So that leads, and this is how I'll kind of close. We're almost done here with this part of the presentation. But backend development, for me to just say JavaScript is the only language used in backend development is not true, right? There's actually a ton of languages that people use for backend development, and most of the time it's like not JavaScript. Like, sometimes you'll hear like Python as like a backend language. Sometimes you'll hear like Java, right? These are all different languages that people use in the backend. So backends are a lot more varied, I guess, than front ends, right? Front ends basically always, at least modern front ends, usually consist of these three languages. Sometimes there's other languages thrown in the mix, but pretty much 90% of modern websites are made with these three. With backend development, backends are written in all sorts of languages. That being said, one advantage of learning JavaScript is that JavaScript is now a very popular language for the backend. So for you as people who are learning web development, it is extremely advantageous to get good at JavaScript, because it's kind of the main core language that's going to be powering your front-end web development skills and your back-end web development. Cool. So yeah, basically, if we just zoom out, we can see that, it's not too crazy, right? When we break things down like this. And I think to just kind of summarize the takeaways, really just know that this is the product trio. Like what we're going to be focusing on is building product, right? We're not learning marketing. We're not learning sales. We're not learning IT. We're really learning product. And specifically, we're learning software engineering, right? You are learning software engineering, but the particular form of software engineering you're learning is front-end and back-end development. Okay, that was a lot. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. I did go on some tangents there, but let's see. Let me go ahead and check the chat and make sure that no one is too confused about that. And also, just a reminder, we do have Q&A time pretty soon. So that's when I'll actually go through chat and answer any questions that might have mixed. But hopefully everyone's feeling like okay about this diagram, right? Once again, you don't have to understand this super deeply. This is just to kind of give you a basic map of where everything is. And starting on Thursday, as early as Thursday, we're going to be starting to look at these two components, HTML, CSS, and that will probably last for like a week or so. And then for the rest of it, we're really just going to be focused on building up your JavaScript skills and all the frameworks that come with it. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back to the slides here, but hopefully that made somewhat sense. But yeah, feel free to leave any comments. I don't know if you can leave comments on this FigJam actually, but if you do have any questions about this, since this is like the meat of the presentation today, please let us know in chat so we can address them. Okay, so that was the 10,000 view. I'm gonna end today. Before the Q&A, so the homework for today, there's really not much, right? Today is just an orientation, so there's not any like coding or anything you have to do. All I ask you to do is, optionally, you can fill out the feedback form so I can improve. So I'm going to share the link to this in the chat as well. This is just a Google form, anonymous Google form. You can just fill out. I'm going to go ahead and share here. And then read the code of conduct and join the Discord if you do want to participate in the community. And that link should also be in the chat as well. The other thing is, if you haven't already, just drop a short introduction in the introductions channel. And this is something that, once again, this is all optional, but I find that this can really help. And it's if you did learn anything from today, just write a short little paragraph, like basically a tweet-sized paragraph on something you learned today. You don't have to share this with anyone. You don't have to, you can share in the Discord if you want, or share it with me. But really, this is just for you to kind of restate kind of something interesting you learned, and it might help you cement the knowledge a little better. Okay. Cool. So we're all done with the main portion. Wow, that hour went by really fast. So now we're going to spend the next 15 minutes dedicated to Q&A. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Once again, all the links for this will be shared. It might take like a day or two for me to get the recording all saved to YouTube, but it should be on Twitch immediately. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull up chat and start to take a look at the Q&A. 1 second. All right. All right, I'm going to go through chat. I'm going to start from the top here.
It's a lot.
No worries.
Wait, no, they're starting from the bottom. Like, people are asking.
Oh. Gotcha. Okay, I'm just going to start from the bottom then. Might be easier. Okay, so what kind of projects we'll be doing for homework? Great question. So the projects will really be, it'll be different per learner. One thing about the platform I'm building is that it uses AI to basically kind of take your interests and generate projects. One thing I found from courses is that like everyone ends up having the same projects and they all kind of end up looking the same. It's a lot more fun to build things that you're interested in, right? So one of the advantages of using AI for this is that, you can tell the AI like, hey, like I like, I like sports. Give me sports related projects, and it can like generate some for you. So the projects will really vary per learner. But the projects in the beginning will be very mini, right? They're just like little projects just designed to help you learn the basic building blocks. By the end, I want to help people kind of use more advanced technologies. Like I do want people to start like playing around with, say, AI technologies like GPT-3, Stable Diffusion later, like much later down the line, like towards the end. I'll be teaching people how to kind of like incorporate those technologies, like cutting edge technologies in your projects. This is like, they're fun to use. It's a way for you to learn a little bit about AI. The other thing is that you'll stand out a lot, right? Like with those AI projects, like not a lot of bootcamp grads have those, and having those on your resume will hopefully attract like, recruiters and make your portfolio a lot more interesting. So yeah, hopefully it answers that question. I'm going to answer this question. How will we learn to use, or will we learn to use GitHub? Yes, definitely. So GitHub is not a core module as you may be seeing in the units, right? GitHub's not necessarily listed there. That being said, I do think learning GitHub and Git is important for modern software engineers, especially if your goal is to get hired. So we will be talking about it a lot. It's just I don't have a dedicated like module for it. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So when did you start building the On Playground website? So fun fact, I actually didn't build the On Playground website. If you go to On Playground, like what's there right now, I just used a Framer template. I didn't even code this. I used Framer, which is a like no code building tool. For those that have used like Webflow, it's kind of like that. It's like, or WordPress, I guess, is like another good example. It's like a fancier version of like WordPress or Squarespace, basically. So this was just literally just a template that I like reskinned because I was lazy. I didn't want to like code the website itself. But once again, this is just a landing page, right? I just used Framer because I didn't feel like building the landing page, and I knew I was going to like replace this with my actual app once that was done. So the app itself, I've been building for quite a few months, and I've changed a lot, so that's probably why it's taken so long. But this site itself is actually just a Framer template. So hopefully that makes sense. Cool. I'm going to answer this question. What text editor do you recommend for coding? So this is a lot of what we're going to be covering on Thursday. Like a big focus on Thursday is going to be the tools, and we're going to be diving a lot more into text editor then. So I'm gonna save a lot of the bulk of what I have to say for tools for Thursday. But I would say the main editor I like to use is Visual Studio Code. It's free, it's fast, it's extensible, right? You can style it and make it look pretty, and you can add cool extensions. But honestly, all the editors are the same. It does not matter really which code editor you use, right? People like JetBrains, people like Vim. It does not matter. I'm just biased because I like VS Code, and it's very popular. But for beginners, I guess that is what I'd recommend because it's free and it's great. Are there any other tools we should grab in preparation? Not right now. That's going to be discussed a lot more in detail on Thursday. So I'll hold off on answering that in more depth until then. Okay, so how long will everything be? Honestly, that is something that's hard for me to answer. Like what I'm targeting is like 12 weeks, right? And we're going to take like breaks for holidays and stuff. But once again, this is my first time doing a bootcamp like this on Twitch. So a big part of me getting feedback is to understand, like on some units, I'm sure we're going to have to spend a little longer, right? I can't expect like everything will take exactly 1 week to go through. And if things take longer, then, the 12 weeks might become longer than that, right? So I don't want to like promise necessarily like 12 weeks is the range. That's the estimate. But hopefully that gives you a rough idea of the timeline, but once again, it's not going to be exact. Okay, will this bootcamp teach interviewing techniques? Yes, so towards the end, we'll be talking a lot about career prep, and that's where we'll talk very in-depth about like resume, portfolios, interviewing, leak code, all that stuff. That will all be kind of like pushed near the end, just because in the beginning, our main goal is just to build up our craft, right? The skill of building apps, building websites, that's like a big bulk of it. And at the end, we'll talk a lot about, how to actually break into the industry. So that's where interviewing will come into there. Would you say it's easier to learn languages like C++ and Python after JavaScript? How similar and different are they? That's a really great question. Yes, absolutely. It's, as a general rule of thumb, once you learn one programming language, every programming language you learn after that will become much easier. Especially things like Python, right? JavaScript and Python are extremely similar. So if you already have some Python knowledge, or maybe you plan on learning Python later, once you learn JavaScript, it becomes, oops, my camera is frozen. 1 second. Once you learn JavaScript, it becomes much easier to learn future languages. Let me go ahead and switch my camera, sorry. There we go. Okay, yeah, my camera died, I think. Cool. So, will you do another bootcamp after this one is finished? Like a bootcamp class 2 that expands on even more advanced topics and stuff? That's a good question. I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm not very great at planning far ahead. I want to see how well this one goes first before I make a call about whether or not there'll be an advanced session. There's also been some requests for me to do a machine learning AI bootcamp. So I just have to, I think, figure out like the interest level for these advanced programs and consider my own schedule as well. So I can't say right now, but that is a good idea. Like an advanced session could be really interesting. But nothing's planned right now. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to catch up on these questions here. I've already started learning Python. Would it affect me if I'm learning Python and JavaScript simultaneously, or should I wait to focus on this class? That's a really good question. I don't feel like it would hurt to learn both simultaneously. Honestly, Python and JavaScript are the only two programming languages I know, right? JavaScript's what I use for JavaScript's what I use for like web development, and Python is what I use for data science. And the only like flaw I can think is sometimes I write like names of Python functions when I'm writing JavaScript and vice versa. Like the languages are pretty similar that I kind of like confuse them sometimes. So that's the only thing I could think of. But honestly, I don't think it would hurt that much. You're just gonna have to get used to like sometimes you'll be like, oh wait, what was this method in JavaScript or Python? And you know sometimes that confusion will come up, but it's not gonna hurt that much. Oh, we're getting rated. Nice. Hello. Cool. Yeah, yeah, you can see my cat in the background there. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna scroll up. Thanks for the raid. I've never gotten raided before. So this is awesome. A lot of people here now. I'm gonna scroll up and catch more of the questions. Oh, I see Jackie. Huh?
Yeah, that's my question.
See, okay, Jackie already answered the browser question. Yeah, so this is a new browser I'm testing out called Arc. I can share the link for that in the chat if you do want to like download it. I think it's waitlist only, but it's pretty sick. They're like kind of one theme of this class as well is like, you know, it's good for us to get inspired by like tasteful software, and I think the browser company, so the company that's building this browser I'm using, is an example of one of those tasteful pieces of software. I'll share the link to that here. So browser Arc. So you can add yourself to the waitlist there. Where will the homework be? So the homework will be in the slides, but I'm also gonna share that in the Notion as well. So where I will share that link. This is how I changed my grades to show my parents in middle school. Oh my god, that's amazing. That is so funny. And honestly, like, yes, you can definitely work your way around school a lot just with that inspect element thing, because I know you can like, you know, I don't want to tell people to cheat, but I know people cheat like using that like HTML editing thing. That's pretty funny though. Another pro tip, not a real pro tip, but you know, in PayPal, if you ever want to flex your money, you know, just go in PayPal, change your balance to like $9 billion, and boom, easy money. Don't actually do that. It's not real. What qualifies software as tasteful? Man, I don't know if I'm a great judge of that. It's kind of just like things that are well designed and you feel like, you know, maybe it's easier to say software that's not tasteful, right? Like most software out there, like almost everything that Microsoft makes is just like very, you can tell it's just a copy of something else, right? Like Teams is a copy of Slack, for example. And I would say like software that is like very original and like trying to invent new patterns, invent new paradigms, that doesn't necessarily make something tasteful, but one characteristic of tasteful software is that they do something in a very unique way. Discord is kind of tasteful. Some might say Twitch is tasteful. I don't know, but yeah, I think just a lot of things like the Apple makes, for example, is definitely I would call tasteful. But taste is subjective, right? So like what I think is tasteful might not be considered as tasteful to someone else. Day one homework, inflate the PayPal balance. Yes, that is, everyone just get your money up by changing your PayPal balance to $1 billion. When this bootcamp is okay, so I got this question. When this bootcamp's over, do you think the learners will have enough skills to apply for a software engineer job? So I want to say yes, as long as you know do all the projects, and of course, like doing the project isn't going to be enough necessarily. Like you'll have the skills, but then there's still the other side of like being able to get an interview, and then once you do get an interview, like you know being able to actually pass the technical interview. Like those are somewhat separate skills. Like we are going to talk about that as well. The idea is though, like you by the end of the program, you should have all the skills needed to actually like be at the level of entry level software engineer. That being said, the industry has changed a lot. Like I really hate just seeing those TikToks and like videos of like, oh, tech is easy to break into, right? Just study for a couple months and you can get a job. That might have been true like 7-8 years ago, but you know everyone kind of wants to get into tech now. There's so many CS grads, there's so many bootcamp grads, and it is harder to get into tech. I'm just gonna say it like right now. I'm not trying to say it to be like a downer. It's just like a fact. I won't say that like, oh yeah, you can get a job in like, you know, 3-6 months flat. That being said, a lot of like what I'll be teaching here are strategies to kind of differentiate yourselves from the waves of CS grads and bootcamp grads that all might have similar projects. Basically, you have to play the game a little bit differently. But my hope is that yes, all the skills that you'll learn, you'll definitely be at the level of front end developer. Just getting a job, that I can't control, right? That is a little bit, no one can really control kind of like our company's hiring at that time, like stuff like that. So it's hard for me to say, yes, you'll get a job after, because, you know, no one can necessarily guarantee that. Hopefully that makes sense. The cat has been sitting on the countertop. Yes. I don't know what she's doing. She's just...
Someone said, is mobile app development a completely different thing?
Oh, yes. So is mobile development a completely different thing? So like looking back at the diagram, right? Like I think this is the easiest way to visualize it. It's a different thing in the sense of like it's still within the realm of software engineering, but it's not what we're going to be learning in this program, right? What we're going to be learning is full stack web development. We're going to be learning how to build web apps mainly. So if your goal is to be like a professional mobile developer, this is probably not the place to learn that. If your goal is to just, I want to be able to build a mobile app just for fun, you can do that with the skills you're learning here. But you won't be able to get like a mobile development job, if that makes sense. Like that's a slightly separate skill set instead of languages. So hopefully that answers that. Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Biggest challenge for new coders, specifically those learning JavaScript?
Biggest challenge for new coders, specifically those learning JavaScript. Oh man, that's tough. I always feel like the biggest challenge is like in the beginning, not knowing what you don't know, right? There's so much like jargon, there's so much conflicting advice, that yeah, having that like clarity of like the path is oftentimes I think where people get stuck up on. What else? I guess also like projects as well. I like back when I was learning web development like 8-9 years ago, I did Code Academy, and after Code Academy I was just like, now what, right? Because like Code Academy taught me the basics, but I didn't know how to build anything. So I always feel like connecting like the syntax of the language that you're learning to like what you're actually building, that is something that I know a lot of new coders get hung up on. So hopefully throughout this program, you're going to have a lot of projects that you can use to go through. But
Tenacity is the biggest challenge.
yeah, also, yeah, it's a good point. Tenacity. This is something that's going to take many months, right? I can't say like, oh, if you just show up to all the sessions and do the homework, I don't know if that's going to be enough for you to get a front-end web development job, right? You'll probably have to go out and still immerse yourself in other communities, right? Watch other like resources and build projects on your own. Just because, you know, this is only like 2 hours a week, right? That can't be enough time for someone to really build up that skill set. So yeah, staying like keeping that tenacity and like it's going to take months of hard work, but if you can kind of get through that and you know build up as many projects as possible, then I think you'll still be able to get to where you want to go. Hopefully that makes sense. Do you recommend WSL2? I actually don't know what WSL2 is.
I know what it is.
Oh, Jackie knows what it is. Or is Linux better?
It's like the Windows system. It's basically the
Oh.
Windows terminal.
Oh, the Windows terminal. You know, I have done everything on a Mac for such a long time that honestly I do not know much about the Windows ecosystem. That being said, I feel like at least teaching people who have Windows computers, I always try to get to learn the Linux shell instead, just because it's more universal, right? Like at least for web development, most people I find use like Linux-based, Unix-based like systems. I don't know if I can say one is better than the other. I would just say for learning, at least for this platform, in this course, it'll be probably a lot easier if we're all doing Linux or Unix-based terminals. What was the homework for us? I'll share the homework. The homework is really just like join the Discord, give an introduction, and fill out the feedback form. It's like we don't have real homework in this session because it's just like a first time session. You know, it's just orientation. But I'll share the actual homework in the Discord. It'll be in the Notion as well, so you can see the exact like things you have to do there. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was improved. I think I was thinking of WSL1. I'll have to take a look at it again. Maybe if it's better, then yeah, then maybe it's totally fine. But once again, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Windows. Like I am a Mac person, unfortunately, so I would probably need to talk to someone who knows a little bit more about that. What are some good books you recommend? Honestly, books for web development is like, I personally don't learn very well from web development books. I think one reason I think the reason for that is because web development is such a fast moving industry that when a book comes out within a year or two, it's usually outdated. So the only books like I actually recommend to most people when learning web development are the interview books, like Cracking the Coding Interview. Cracking the Coding Interview. There's like other books like that, like basically books that are designed to help you get the job. Those I find are useful, but books about like the technology themselves, those become outdated so fast. It's hard for me to say like what is a good book for web development. There are lots of like YouTube channels and resources I can recommend. You can see some of those in the resource section of the Notion. But in terms of books, I need to like do more research because I like books, but for books for web development, they just become outdated really quickly. Okay, I didn't know you could use normal Linux commands in WSL. Okay, that's good to know. In that case, then it's probably fine. As long as you can like use the same Linux commands, then that's good. Cool. I'm gonna keep going through the questions. Sorry, I'm like jumping all over. I know that there's some questions I didn't answer.
Most of it.
Most of it? Okay, yeah, that looks... All right, it looks like Jackie handled all the questions that I didn't get to, so that's... Thank you, Jackie. Cool. What's your take on Web3? Oh, no, I knew I was going to get asked this. Okay, my take on Web3 is that I don't know enough about it to have a take. I think that's probably the honest answer. Like, there's like we could discuss it from like a technology standpoint. We could talk about like an investing standpoint. We could talk about it as like a, I don't know, macroeconomic standpoint. I feel like I just don't know enough about the space to think about it. I think learning it's like if you're interested in it, then I highly encourage you to like dive into that space and learn how like blockchain dev and like Solidity and all those technologies. But I mean, I guess I was never into Web3, but like I was into crypto maybe like 6-7 years ago, but purely for the goal of making money. Right, I was only interested in it because it was lucrative, right? It was very lucrative at the time. It was very easy to write like an arbitrage bot that was just like trade and make money. But I'd never I guess I left the crypto world before things like Web3 and NFTs came along. So I really don't know, and just because there's still in crypto, from my outsider's perspective, there's still a lot of people that are in it purely for the money, and they're like, they're like, a lot of it's driven by greed. And then you have the other part of Web3 and crypto that's like people who are genuinely building something really cool and building something that like that is going to be like, that it could change institutions of the world. And I think a big problem that crypto has right now is that from the outside, it's very hard for people who are not in crypto to like discern between those two groups, right? There's like the scammy, like, pump and dump coins, and then you have projects that are actually like creating world-changing technologies. I personally do not know enough about Web3 to be able to discern the two, and I can just see like the industry as a whole. Maybe the recent crash is going to help with this because, maybe as crypto crashed, I'm hoping that a lot of the people that were there for the money and with the greed will be pushed out, so that the people who are actually building real value in crypto, that is what will maybe actually come out of the industry. But I don't really know much about it to speak on it overall. So I do see there are really brilliant people and really creative people that are building things there. So I'd like to think that they're going to be the ones that set it. But just recognizing that most people that are in crypto, I don't think share the same sentiment necessarily, at least historically. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I'm not in that ecosystem as much. I've always been kind of closer to like AI, I guess, as a technology. Cool. Let's see. Any other? Oh, my cat's very angry. Yeah. I don't know if you heard my cat. She's like complaining. Yeah, I think it's the Ponzi. It's like crypto as a whole suffers kind of from like a marketing problem, right? I think if crypto, I mean, obviously there's no way to like unite every brain in crypto to think the same, but let's say like when Web3 came out, a lot of the services and products that came out, if they didn't mention crypto or blockchain and just like showed people the solution, the value that it gives, then I think it could have ended a lot differently. Right. I think people who are not in tech get kind of scared off by like, words like blockchain or decentralized, like they don't know what that means. Right. Like for tech people, I'm a tech person. I barely know what those things actually are. Right. It's just like it's like you have to kind of when you're pushing like a new industry, I feel like it's really important to get the buy-in of the general public by not scaring them away with like jargon stuff. And, crypto, it pushed that stuff really hard early on. And yeah, I think we've seen now like a lot of people are kind of scared off of crypto, but not to say that's a bad thing, right? Like maybe only the greedy people and Ponzi schemers are scared off, and then the actual builders are still building real value now. But yeah, once again, I don't know enough about the space to like say much more about it. Cool. I think that's all the questions. Please let me know if I missed any. There's a lot here. I don't know if I got it all. But yeah, I think that is it. Okay, so if that's all, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thank you everyone for coming. Honestly, this is a pretty amazing turnout. I was not expecting this many people to show up. Gonna share the links to everything in Notion, Discord. You're gonna see. Apologies if you see like a dump of links, just because I find that it's better to have things shared multiple places, just in case anybody misses anything. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. This is awesome.